We are going to speak with Mr. Prateek Jhawar, who is the MD and head of infra and uh, real estate assets at Avendus Capital, to talk to us about, of course, the big theme, which is the other new age tech theme, which is at play with regard to data centers. Prateek, just for viewer context, if you can help us with how large is this opportunity? How quickly will India try to tap into it and scale, especially on the Indian player front?
No, very interesting. Thank you guys for inviting Harsh, Puneet. Good morning. No, so this is one of the plays within, I would say, the folds of infrastructure, real assets, which we are seeing kind of becoming larger by the day. We have seen almost India today is around 800 megawatt capacity, and we expect this to double in next 3 to 5 years. So a lot of supply is coming in. In the number terms, if I have to kind of quantify, we see almost close to around $5 billion of investments which will go in, which includes building out of data centers and also the servers and racks. So the investment is expected to be around a $5 billion in next 3 to 5 years. And if I take a 10-year view, probably around a 25 billion investment can really go in data centers in India.
And from a customer or a sector-centric standpoint, what's really driving this growth? Because you're essentially looking at nearly a 25% CAGR on over the next 3 years, if this were to double in the next 3 years, is what you're suggesting.
I think there are 3 or 4 drivers. If you look at everything is getting digitized, all your payments, processes, online shopping, internet, entertainment, a lot is going online, all requires data, and we practically kind of doubling data usage every year, year on year. The thing is that we have always been serviced by hyperscalers, and a lot of that being done, I think 80% of that processing was done in US and other geographies, which is getting localized. So government is coming out with norms of kind of storing data and processing it in India. That is one big driver of shift of or creation of this infrastructure within the country. So hyperscalers continues to remain a big tenant who are moving their data storage to India. Then we have big, large enterprise clients who have their own data storage requirements. Plus, we have obviously kind of seeing newer segments like e-commerce and entertainment, which is driving this growth. So in a way, it is a bedrock of all the digital transactions and digital interface which you see, where the processing gets carried out. Most of our businesses are kind of moving to one cloud, and that's where the backend data centers plays a role.
All right, Prateek. Hi, Anushi joining in. I want to understand the capex requirements now. What are the current capex size of the industry at? Where should this capex number be heading towards in the next 4 to 5 years? Or do we see a significant shift for the players involved in the field over here?
Yeah, interesting question. See, we had been mostly being serviced by telcos. There was a captive requirements with the STTs, entities of the world. Very few limited players were kind of meeting the requirement. There were smaller Indian players who were meeting the requirement of local enterprises. With given the size and the potential of opportunity, which we're talking about, say 25 billion equivalent, we are seeing large institutional investors as well as large operators who are working globally are getting interested in India. So last 5 or 6 years, we have seen almost 8 to 10 international players entering India and kind of have locked in very early stage positions in India where they are creating their first data centers. We have seen announcement with large groups like Adani's and Reliance's who have partnered. Reliance has partnered with Brookfield to kind of set up large scale data centers. So potentially there is going to be a surge of institutional capital and institutional players who will come in, and we'll see the sector getting, it is in a way, I would say, dominant by the institutional players any which ways. But increasingly over a period of time, we will see more and more institutional capital coming in here.
Right, and in terms of players leveraging on this opportunity, what's the profile like? What do you see as some of the key 2, 3 largest players in India who are leveraging this opportunity?
Yeah, I think there is intrinsic advantage or I'd say benefit with the hyperscalers have, who are ultimately the operators and biggest consumer of data center capacity, who are putting up their own captive centers as well as obviously kind of being the biggest tenants for the real estate developers. There is a a lot of buzz with players in India who are into infrastructure businesses, players who are into real estate businesses to kind of really dovetail and see if they can kind of take a pie of this opportunity. So we will see few of the real estate developers, large institutional sized real estate developers getting into data center. Large conglomerates are looking at it given the size of the opportunity. So we'll see some conglomerates joining in the play. There are pension funds and institutional investors like I spoke about Blackstone and Brookfield. Warburg has a platform in the region which has also started playing in. Bain-backed platform called Bridge Data Centers had created a data center in India 5 years back. So practically, I would say it's a wide field open, which is pretty much for to be taken, and we're seeing an interest from across board to kind of create data centers, and operators are also kind of coming in and playing into it.
So Prateek, the one aspect that you mentioned was on the real estate developers, which will continue to gain traction from year on onwards. But I also want to understand, what about the capital good industries? Even they are making strides in data centers, be it a company like Cummins or ABB. They're all wanting to capture and have highlighted the importance over here. What's the growth aspect coming in from the companies like ABB or Cummins going forward for in India? And do you think the power requirements that are currently there, is it sufficient for the kind of data center requirements that are presently needed for the road ahead?
Yeah, so I think you raised 2 points. One on the vendor supply chain for data centers. Yes, a lot of vendors are obviously going to get benefited when you're going to kind of create or invest around $25 billion of capex, which is predominantly, I would say, 1/3 go into real estate, 2/3 go into equipment. So equipment suppliers are obviously going to benefit immensely from the supply. It's a new segment which is opening up for them. And suppliers like ABB, which were earlier focusing only on power equipments, would look at more specific requirement which is coming from this space. So the vendor ecosystem is certainly going to benefit. Another question which you raised was about the investment opportunities which are coming in from the real estate investor side. So that I covered in the earlier point which you mentioned.
Right, and Prateek, just from a vendor perspective, I want to cap this off. You've got ABB and Siemens, of course, but any of the finer niche vendors in terms of product or service which will benefit from some of these large capex setups that are going to be coming through over the next 3 years?
Frankly, I don't want to name specific companies here. They're listed stocks, and we don't want to kind of take a view. But broadly, if anyone in the ecosystem which was supplying to being suppliers of equipments primarily on the electronic equipment side, and anyone who's in the power equipment side is being covered here. The power requirement point which you mentioned earlier, right now the data centers are consuming around 1.5% of the power which India is generating. US consumes almost, the data center consumes almost 9% of power requirement. So yes, it is going to be extremely power hungry segment, and there is going to be a benefit which the power companies can also kind of take from data center. They are large consumers of power. We believe in next, say, if we maintain the growth momentum which we are talking about, we still have like almost the power requirement of data centers will go on all the way around, say, 3 to 4% of overall power generation is expected by 2030. So green power generators and the companies which are focusing on renewable energies do look at data centers as one of the big and key client segment for them.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jhawar, for breaking this down for us. Of course, a very interesting space, this one. And one to watch out for the future.